Hello, YouTube listeners. Today, Candice and I are continuing our Reluctant Messenger Unleash. I'm Donna Rebido, your host.
We start part 2 of chapter 2.
We go over to page 20, and we're talking about the May 1st, 2014 message, and about why this becomes important. That humans may refer to this connection as awareness. When the message received, it's in the form of an energy packet. The message consists of multiple energy frequencies that are received on multiple levels. So you've got this big antenna, you're receiving it, and as you're tuning it on your station, some of the information is coming in on 570 FM, and the other one's coming in on 840, and so you have to be aware of this multimodal system that we have.
At the bottom of page 20, I talk about the, as I received the message, there's this plasma ball.
Yes.
Okay. Now, true confessions here. Only afterwards did I go back and read this message, because if you notice, the messages really jump around. There'll be 7 months later, 10 months later. But the messages continued as if there had not been a break in time, which was perfect because it certainly shows I had fine-tuned to that specific frequency. But when I went back and read this first message, I realized that I had this little thought about a plasma ball. Those balls that you can find in a science store or novelty shop, little glass ball, you put your hands on it and electricity goes up. I hadn't realized that the first time I got the message, in the background was running this beautiful little picture of a plasma ball. But when I saw it, when I went back and read it the first time, there was that plasma ball again. And every time I would go back and read this, I saw the plasma ball. But because time had passed, when I would get another message and I would refer myself back to this, I didn't realize that vision I had, first of all, that was even a vision, because I did not have a lot of visualization skills. But the more I stayed in that field, the stronger those became. And then I realized that the vision I had of the plasma ball was part of the message. It had always been there, but only later with training and experience and exposure did I realize how significant it was, that it was part of the message. And even later in the book, in the next book, some of the visions actually are the messages. It just, but the point I'm trying to make is they are saying that when on the top of page 21, when energy is streamed into awareness, along with it comes a fuller set of vibrational frequencies than just the words. That awareness channel becomes part of the receiver's energy system as it alters the energy field. And this is what was happening to me. Every connection that I made changed me vibrationally, changed my energy field, and made it much easier for me to pick up messages. But it all started with awareness.
So what we're building for you is we're building the sense that it's not just your body. Your body has to be there and be aware. You've done the breathing, you're becoming aware, you get all of this. Now messages are coming through, but they're not just coming through a brain. Even though we've just talked about neuroplasticity and whatever, you have an energy field. There's an energy field. And then there's a body. So people have called it the physical body, lots of names for it, but it's an energy field as far as we're going to be concerned here. As messages coming through, they're going to be changing you. Just like our knowledge today, what we started off with is by doing the YouTube, we're changing your knowledge, we're changing your awareness. Okay, so you're being changed. And Candy's being changed exponentially. Her beliefs are crumbling, the messages are coming through, and it's coming through over time. So she had to hear them, and then time went by, then they explained it again, and then time went by. But what we're doing here is we're putting them in a topic based so that you're getting it almost all at once. So we're telling you about, on the top of page 21, what she just said. Once the energy has flowed into your awareness, so you're now aware, you're forgetting about all the things I just said about neuroplasticity and blah blah blah. You're now going to go to the right brain into a feeling space. That's why it's called the emotional guidance, the emotions, the feelings. You're away from the left brain, and we're transitioning over to the right brain. And we want you to know it's just more than words. That it can be these visions. And the visions can have messages. All information, all frequencies carry information. All information is in the form of messages. So all these, like a radio wave comes in, it's carrying the message. And you have a receiver, the radio, you turn it into that channel. And when the wave shows up into your radio, out comes the output is a song. And so in that song, you hear melody, you hear words, but it's invoking you, changing you into hearing a Christmas tune that is really important to you that you heard when you were a kid. And so all those great feelings come back. The fuller set of vibrational frequencies of energies are more than just words. They referred to the scenes that played back into my mind. So this is happening to Candy. So, for example, people can recall in full detail the events surrounding them on September 11th. So, just to show you how old I am, when I started teaching, I used to ask my kids, where were you on the day Kennedy was shot? And then I realized over time that my students were like, they were saying, no, I don't remember. And I go, really? She goes, yeah, I wasn't born yet.
Right. Ouch, that hurts, doesn't it, Donna?
And then I had to go to September 11th or the Challenger. So I had to I retired because I was running out of these seminal events for people.
Right. But the emotional guidance system, that is so important. That is what teaches us how to do this. But when you ask people, where were you on this specific day? The reason they remember it, and it brings back more than just the event, is it is through their heart space. And, at this point in my channeling, I didn't understand how important the heart was, but this was the first step in showing me there is this emotional guidance system. What I know now is that emotional guidance system that lives within the heart is actually the functional mechanism behind this portal, which is our connection to the non-physical world of energy. And it's led by that emotional guidance system. That is where we get discernment. I mean, people will ask me, do you ever get really negative messages or, negative things that come in? It's like, no, I mean, I really don't. But if I did, that is where discernment is. I would listen to the wisdom of my heart, and my heart would guide me. Is this an energy I want to accept in my field? If so, I welcome it. If it isn't, I just push it aside and block it off. So this was my first step into beginning to understand the importance of the heart.
And that you have control. That's a really, really good point that people sometimes think, well, if I go out of body or if I have this experience or, whatever is on the non-physical side and it's too big for me, too whatever. You have control. You have control over that by, there's lots of ways that you can control that by saying no. You can say no. I don't want this. This is not.
I had called these tools innate tools. These are things that we all have. It's part of our instinctual nature. So what we're actually learning to do is to get back to that nature and use those tools that will help us. And one of the ways to do that is they talk about keeping your energy field clear. If you don't have a lot of clutter, if you can keep your field clear, you're much more likely, you're more able to perceive of the energy as it comes in, and then understand what it is and make a choice on whether to keep it or not.
Yeah, and you can clear your field, like you said. You can clear it with the use of the crystals to clear it, and do some of the work that you need to do to get yourself together. And I like if we can talk a little bit on page 21 about the chocolate, because I said in the beginning the intro was a foreshadowing. So let's go into that. Much like taking a bite of delicious chocolate, there's more to the exchange than what the taste buds register. You want to talk about that?
Yes. I mean, as they gave me this information, the first thing I thought was, oh, do they know me so well? I mean, not only is my name Candy, but it's like, oh, chocolate, this is great. But it made me realize, I mean, again, it was a perfect example for me. It made me realize, when you take a piece of chocolate, like good Godiva chocolate or whatever, and you put that in your mouth and it just melts, and there's this huge, beautiful experience that goes along with it. It's not just popping a chocolate in your mouth, swallows, chew, chew, swallow. It's the entire experience. I mean, it is very sensual. It uses all the sense, you smell it, you feel it, you taste it, the temperature changes. But it was such a great example, because this is what happens when you connect with the non-physical. You're learning to stretch the senses that you have and use them differently. You're using them more fully than what you did before. So anytime you make a connection, for example, to a non-physical source like your guides, you lay this foundational path, and you know that it's more than just listening to their words, which aren't really words, but you're connecting to them on a level where you begin to know that there's an understanding that goes beyond words. And as you do this more and more often, and you start validating some of the experiences that you have, then you begin to trust. Like, Donna, this is the first time I had a message on a topic where I could actually research and find objective data that said, oh gosh, even in the Weizmann Institute in Israel, they talk about, the brain being like a radio tuner. But bringing in that chocolate was just perfect.
And this is true of her messages, is that she's receiving, she's open, she's receiving it, she's getting it, its full experience. But a lot of times, if you listen read the book and listen to her messages, is that she go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that, and I had to go research it. And I found that to be true when I started talking to Candy. She goes, I didn't know that. They talked about it, but I didn't know it. Then I could look it up and go, oh my God. So she's going, I don't, brain is radio. And I already knew this. So so when she told me, I go, yeah, it's a radio. I'm building a.
It's like, what? I didn't know. Which actually made me this perfect messenger, because there was so much information that came to me that was novel. Maybe everyone else knew about it, but I didn't.
She did not know about the energy field. She didn't know about the Schumann resonance. Now, many of you are going, well, I didn't either. But there's some of us that go, oh, yeah, the Schumann resonance. Everybody knows that.
And I'm saying, what?
So she didn't know about these things. So, again, they use that radio receiver for me. And they use the Candy for both of us. But for Candy, they use the chocolate.
I know it's been perfect. But what's so great is, at this point in the book, I am learning to really embrace Tesla's words. And the secret of the universe is there right in front of us. It's energy, it's vibrations, it's frequency. And Donna, was living it. I was living it. It was such a blessing.
You had the Niagara Falls experience. Just overflowing. It was just like boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we're going to go from the brain is receiver. So again, we're recapping good vibrations, energy. I'm getting that. I'm getting all that. But we're showing you, as a teacher, we're taking you step by step down this path. So next comes up on bottom of page 22 is you've learned all this. Now what? Well, now there's a path. There's a pathway. There's just like there's a neural pathway in your brain. For example, if you're listening to this YouTube and it's new information, what's happening in your brain, it's developing a neural pathway in the brain. Every time you learn something and you're paying attention, there's actually changes in your brain to be able to come back and recall this or understand it. It's a neural pathway. So just like there's a neural pathway, there's now going to be a footpath. So what happens there? What happened there to the foot? What does that mean? You shifted from neural paths to footpaths.
Okay, here we go. On both page 22 and 23, several months apart, the messengers give me a vision. Now, you've got to realize I was now starting to get these visions and recognize the importance of them. I had already received them, like with the plasma ball, but I wasn't really aware of it. Well, now I'm getting these visions. And the first one talks about connecting with them is like walking through a field of wheat. I saw this beautiful vision. I mean, I can be there right now. It's dark. There's a full moon, a harvest moon. And from an aerial view, I see these footsteps as they go across this field of wheat. There's not a person, just the footsteps. And I see where they go because with each step, they are bending and breaking these shafts of wheat. So by the time they reach the other side, which would be to your guides, your angels, the non-physical source, if you turn around and look back, you can always find your way back. There's the path. All you have to do is follow the bent stalks of wheat. Now, part of this I realize now was probably a way for people who might feel uncomfortable, like, okay, so what if I'm out there and I connect with someone? What if I can't find my way back? I didn't have that concern, but it's like, okay, if I did, I know it's an easy way back. Just follow the yellow brick road, as Dorothy would say in Wizard of Oz. And with each connection that you make, you are building this pathway. Electromagnetic, maybe I'm making that up. I don't know, but there is this pathway, this channel that gets deeper with each visit that you make. That was in October of 2014. Mm-hmm. February of 2015, they're now describing this as a path that a bulldozer makes. So what happens, between, that year and in 2015 is that little pathway now is like this big bulldozer has made this path because it's energy and you continue building that pathway. And those two visions just made perfect sense to me. I was becoming more and more comfortable with defining my life through energy,
through the radio. So yes. as I'm building my crystal radio, I'm going to build it in such a way that when the band's frequencies come in, that I don't have to. You know how sometimes in a radio you get this radio and maybe people don't know, we used to have a radio on knobs. And so you used to have an antenna and you used to turn it and you could hear static. And then, when you just hit that little frequency, then you hear the talk show or the sound. But when you have a bigger band, when you build this, and you can test this on an old radio, but when you have a stronger signal, when that pathway's been really built, when you hear a little bit of static, but then boom, You get a big band. So you're building this big radio band for the radio people. For the farmers, you have a bigger plow.
Right, right.
You're using it over and over again, and you're making the channel. You're not only making it wider, deeper, and then that's what we know on the physical side. But on the non-physical, there's also information going in there, so that you begin doing that. And I'm going to talk to one other group. So if you're not in this group, just hang in there for a minute. But if you've had a near-death experience and you've gone through the tunnel, if you're going through the tunnel and you've come back, so it's near-death, you're not dead, you're back with us. When you go through that tunnel, you don't have to race through it. If you go slow through it, you can look at it and realize there's a width, a depth, but there's information in there. So it's not just this little tunnel, but it's information in there, and you can stop and pull out a bobble and get some more information. Okay, all right. If you haven't had a near death, then go back to the radio farmer analogy.
That was great, Donna. But you know what? Everything is energy. Information is energy. You know, that is just so, so important. Once you start learning to, for me, once I started really embracing life as energy, everything just seemed to make sense to me.
So it's hard for people to understand when Candice says everything is energy. And you're like, what the heck does that mean? How can my coffee cup be energy? So I do this with my students. I said, tap on your table in front of you. It's solid. You don't think of it as energy. Coffee cup, solid. Everything's solid. There's no energy to it. And we call that Newtonian physics, or Sir Isaac Newton. And that's what we call the big world, or the macro world. Everything looks and acts solid. Okay? When we started inventing microscopes, and it was a simple microscope, and we can go over to the chemistry lab and we can get into the microscopes. And many people have that experience of seeing the pond water under the microscope, and you start seeing what we thought was water. There's things moving in there. And then we get an electron microscope and we can start digging down deeper and deeper into the micro world. And in the micro world, we found out things weren't as solid as we thought that they were, that things are vibrating and they have a frequency and they're carrying information. So it's in the micro world, or the quantum world. So when people talk about quantum physics, they're talking about way, way, way down in the microscopic level. And we can say fundamentally, everything that appears solid is really energy, vibrations, and information. And Tesla found that out and told us about it. And now Candy's guides are saying this. So I hope that helps you understand when she says everything is energy. Everything is energy. Everything. And if you have an energy, all energy has a frequency. It has a modulation. It has a sound, a pitch, a modulation to it. So I hope that helps.
And Donna, you mentioned something about Joe Dispenza earlier about, when you think in terms of energy, you're taking the woo-woo out of these connections that we have with the non-physical. I mean, they seem magical, but they're really not, which means that we can all learn and train ourselves in order to receive those connections. There's nothing really special about it. It's a matter of tuning into the right frequency.
Yeah, so we're demystifying it. We're giving you how to go into the other world. We're taking it Energy 101 class from us, and so these are the steps to that guidance. So it's important that you have this foundation, because we're gonna, as you can see, we're stepping further and further. Our little pathway in the wheat field was small, but now it's a big trench and there's information in it. So we're going over to page 24. The physical and energy bodies of this one are changing. They're talking about how this is affecting Candy, and this is affecting you. So, just like you take my class, you're taking my class and you started in 101, and say you're a psychology major, and we started in 101. We go up to 202. We can take 303. You know, as you're learning, you're taking these upper level classes. Well, you're changed. You talk differently. You talk to your family differently. They started going, oh, when did you learn that? You know, and you do, you know, so it's like it's changed. So this is changing you. So there are lessons to be learned and perspectives that will make changes. They always felt like you had a broad perspective, but now we're changing you. We're going to just rip apart your thinking.
I mean, my thinking really changed because, you know, again, what I thought was woo-woo now was like just become, it was logical. It just made sense. You know, at the bottom of this page, on page 24, I talk about this. I had a download of information, and then I had a vision about a refrigerator.
I love that one.
I saw this refrigerator plug being, you know, put into a wall socket. And then I heard it hum as, you know, it started, you know, coming on. And it's like you know, you had to plug it in order to keep the energy flowing. And I got that part. But a new perspective, I didn't even realize this, Donna, until I was rereading this chapter for you know, this episode. It's like, oh my gosh, Candice, you finally got it. I understood, of course, you plug it in to get the energy flowing. And then after that, then I saw myself with energy like flowing out. But, you know, to be a refrigerator, you have to have the hardware. You can't plug in a microwave and expect it to cool. You have to have the right hardware. So this is what was happening to me. The hardware was being installed, like bolt by bolt, wire by wire. Each trip that I made to the non-physical and back, each message changed me. It was changing my energy makeup so that when I did plug in, I was receiving messages. I was cooling things instead of microwaving them. But it was all part of building my energy body through repetitive connections that changed me. I love it.
So a couple of points here was that if you think you're going to shortcut your way to the other side, you're not. And people go, well, Candy did. You don't know how many iterations of Candy there's been on the planet. You don't know what agreements that she's had. For the most part, most of us, you have to go through this step by step. And so you're here because you didn't write the book. You're here to listen to this. So yeah, maybe Candy did, but maybe you're like me where we have to go through this step by step. And people go, well, you had a near-death experience. You had a shortcut. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay, don't do that.
We do not recommend that.
Don't recommend drowning in. Anyways, the point of it is that we still have to come back and do this.
Right.
So she had that initial experience. I had the near-death experience. But you think we still have to meditate. We still have to do the work. So if you're thinking that way, then stop that. Stop that thinking. We have to go back and do this. So she's telling you in this chapter how she had to do this. And then the second point was she wrote this book and it was published in 2015. It's
2018.
Oh, 18. That's right, 2018. And we're making her go back and revisit this. So as you heard her say, I go, okay, Candy, we're doing chapter 2. Send you some notes. Look at these things. And she's got to go back and she has to go back and reread this. And when she does, she went, oh, So she's having discoveries even now, going back and reading. So she's looking at that path in the wheat path. She's stopping along the way and going, I didn't realize that. Oh my God, that makes so much sense now.
Right. I mean, it's all about your perspective. Messages come into you every day, all day long. But if you're not in a position where you can perceive them, they're going to just go right past you. I mean, it looks like I had that opening on, in August 2013.
13.
But you know what? Way back many years ago, I was getting these messages. I wasn't aware of it. So they came to me in the manner that I could pay attention in my dreams. But as we change and as our perspectives get larger, then we start to see the whole picture. Just like with that plasma ball, we end up getting all of the offshoots of that energy. It's more than just the words. And you'll notice throughout this chapter, and a lot of the chapters, the messengers keep repeating and repeating. It's like, all right, she's not getting it. Let's tell her again. Let's tell her a different way. But when you're ready, then the words will come to you and will have meaning, perhaps a different meaning than they had, a few months before. We're always learning. We're always growing.
Always. When I did a YouTube video with Tom Campbell, and he's the author of My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything. He's a physicist. He talks in a language that, on the surface, I am reading his book. Okay, I get it. Time goes by, and I go, wait a minute. Does that mean this? Wait a minute. If that means that means, oh my God, that means this means this. So when I got to the interview, I had a lot of subtle information that I didn't have when I first read his book. So someone watching the YouTube channel put in the comments, she keeps asking the same question over and over, and I got bored. And I thought, I went back and listened, and I said, each one of those questions were subtly different, had to do with a subtle energy. So for someone not being aware or not listening, it seemed to them like, oh, I'm bored, I don't get it. So if you think by watching our YouTube now that we're going over the same thing, some of it we are on purpose, but some of it is very subtle. And I would encourage you to go back and, okay, maybe what she's saying is correct. Maybe I'll go back and watch episode 1. Oh, episode 2. Oh, now it makes sense. Even though it appears as if we're repeating things, or it sounds like we're saying the same things, we're really not. She's really talking subtly about the difference between a refrigerator and a microwave. It's a subtle difference. So I'm going to page 25. Often we perceive ourselves as physical bodies that enable us to interact with the environment. But our dense physical bodies are only temporary shells. Our true essence is non-physical. So you've heard us talk about this is physical, and we're going over to the non-physical. Some call this energy, some call it spirit or soul. While on earth, we are spirits having a human experience. Now you're going through page 25 and you're rapidly reading through this. Yeah, I know it. But you missed that sentence. We're spirits having a human experience? I came across this at the Monroe Institute, Bob Monroe, when I first heard that. And I go, spirits having a human experience. Now, looking back on my life, I'm like, yeah. It's more than just physical.
It's so clear that we are more than our physical bodies. We are spirit, we are soul, we're our true essence. We're just temporarily in this shell. But how long did it take us, Donna, to learn that? For the longest time,
I have white hair because I'm not 20.
Right. But for the longest time, we thought we were this physical body. And you said something earlier about as you age, then there's more crystalline structures in your body. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. But
oh my gosh,
isn't that isn't that the definition of wisdom? I mean, think about what crystals do. They amplify energy. They can help focus energy. That's why I have more crystals in my body and I've stepped into wisdom. But that is truly why during our older, as we get older, we do step into wisdom because we realize we are so much more than just this physical shell. And we are truly spirits just having a human experience.
The rest of the chapter is going into letting go, but I'm going to stop here and tell you about what today is. So, Jupiter and Saturn are coming together as planets and creating an energy that we haven't seen in 800 years. It's called the conjunction, or some people have said it's probably the star they saw in Bethlehem. And we haven't seen it for 800 years, and it's 2020. We can wait 60 years, it's going to happen again. The way that the planets are orbiting, it makes Saturn and Jupiter on the same path. It's two planets looking like one, and it creates this bright, what looks like a bright star. And so what's interesting about this year, 2020, if you study stars, is that the way that the planets are, the angle is, the astronomers or astrologists will say it's the first time it has happened and it's becoming the age of Aquarius. And so what that means, it's a water sign. And so I find it very interesting that it's Candy's birthday. She talks about flow. Even though she talked about it with a flower, the water aspect is really important. But this opening of the portal, so if you look directly behind her and look at that rose sacred geometry, it's a portal. So it's going to open up. So there's a bunch of us that are going to meditate this evening, opening up this portal to energies. So it ought to be really, really interesting about today, the 21st. So I want you to open up your portal, open up your heart. So notice it's a rose, and your heart is rose. It's a rose quartz. It's very important in chakras to look at that opening. So I think there'll be a great opening of energy tonight. So if you're feeling stuck or you're not quite getting it, or you feel like, oh, that's good for you guys because you've had these messages and this near death and you can do it. No, today's about you. Today's about you. Listen to what we're saying and let it become you today.
What a beautiful message. Thank you, Donna. One of the things that I've learned through all the messages that I've had is that we on planet Earth are going through a transition. Earth is evolving. And as she evolves to these higher vibrational frequencies, she's bringing all of us with her. And that might be part of the reason why people like me are opening. So if you're watching this and you have a desire to be more closely connected to your guides and your angels and your higher self, know that this is the wave of the future. We are all actually working and moving toward cosmic consciousness. We're all realizing that we are these marvelous spiritual beings that are just, here on earth right now to have these wonderful experiences. And although some of them might be painful, they help us. They help us to learn. And people like you, Donna, you're getting together with friends and, you're all deciding we're going to meditate and help open this portal. That's something we can all do. And even if you don't know what you're doing, let your heart guide you, because it's all energy and you will tap into the energy of all that is, that will allow you to help support others who do know what they're doing, like Donna, when they're going to open this portal. So thank you.
Yep. We're going to open the portal for you guys tonight. Well, there's a bunch of us. So there's physical beings and there's non-physical beings, that we've made this agreement on this day at this hour. No,
Go.
let's go ahead and stop. And we're gonna because I like that. I like taking each chapter in two parts so far because there's so much material. There's
Yeah.
so much we just told people about. We're gonna begin on page 26 next time. In the meantime, enjoy the summer, the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, Candy's birthday, Jupiter conjunction. What a powerful day. Enjoy that.
And chocolate. No, I'm kidding.
Happy birthday, Candy.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.